My name is Stevie Ash. I'm 38 years old, and for almost 12 years, my boyfriend thought the most complicated thing I did all day was reset passwords and fix broken laptops. 6 months ago, he told me I was too ordinary to survive without him. 3 months ago, he learned how dangerous ordinary people can be. I met Nolan when I was 26. Back then, I was living on cheap coffee, working IT contracts during the day, and attending law school classes at night. My apartment smelled like printer ink and instant noodles. His smelled like expensive candles and confidence. He worked in luxury branding. Everything about him looked polished. Perfect smile. Perfect outfits. Perfect social media. On our fourth date, we were sitting outside a rooftop restaurant when he casually said, "I could never date a lawyer." I laughed. Why? They're exhausting. All they do is argue. I still remember the city lights reflecting in his glass when he added, "Tech people are cooler." So I told him I worked in tech. Also true. I just left out the law degree. Maybe that was my mistake. Or maybe loving someone always starts with small omissions you convince yourself don't matter. 2 years later, I passed the bar. I never practiced. I maintained the license, though. Every course, every renewal fee, every continuing education seminar. Meanwhile, my IT business exploded. Small businesses became corporate contracts. Corporate contracts became employees. Employees became a company. Nolan loved introducing me. "This is Stevie. She owns an IT company." Never once did he ask if there was more. Over time, his lifestyle grew faster than either of our incomes should have allowed. Designer jackets, luxury gyms, 5-star weekends. Furniture bought because people notice these things. People. Always people. Meanwhile, I worked 70-hour weeks, while he somehow became busier doing less. 20-hour work weeks, Pilates classes, long lunches, networking, and Sabrina, his ex-girlfriend. Though I didn't know that part yet. The first sign wasn't lipstick or late nights. It was accounting. $3,000 disappearing monthly from my business account. The expense category listed, private performance training. I almost ignored it. Business owners learn to ignore weird charges because there are always weird charges. Then I checked the transfers. Recipient: Sabrina Hale Wellness LLC. My stomach dropped, because Sabrina wasn't a trainer. She was his ex, and apparently she was expensive. I waited 3 days before confronting him. 3 days collecting statements, 3 days checking timestamps, 3 days realizing I already knew the answer. He walked into the kitchen smiling. I placed printed bank statements on the counter. "What's this?" He glanced down. Didn't panic. Didn't deny. Didn't even pretend. Instead, he sighed dramatically. "So you found out." Found out. Like I discovered hidden Christmas presents. "How long?" I asked. He opened the refrigerator. "Does it matter?" I stared at him. He grabbed sparkling water, then smiled. "You've been checked out for years, Stevie." "Checked out? I worked 14-hour days paying for this house." "What about the money?" He shrugged. "You make plenty." I remember feeling something strange then. Not heartbreak, not anger. Clarity. Then he said the sentence that changed everything. "Sabrina makes me feel alive." Alive. With money from my company. Then he sat at the kitchen island, the island I financed, and crossed his arms. "I want a divorce." I nodded once. "Okay." That irritated him. "You're not upset? I'm listening." He leaned back. "You should be worried." I stayed quiet. His smile got bigger. "You can barely manage your own wardrobe. You think you can survive court?" "Court. Interesting choice of word." "You think you can handle lawyers?" he asked. I looked at him. "Probably." He laughed. Actually laughed. Then came the threat. "I'm taking half. Maybe more." I said nothing, because silence terrifies arrogant people more than screaming. The next morning, I filed. 2 weeks later, Nolan called, sounding almost excited. I hired Marcus Vale. Of course he did. Marcus Vale had billboards everywhere. Aggressive family law. We fight so you win. Nolan practically purred into the phone. He says representing yourself is stupid. Good to know. You really don't seem scared. I looked down at the continuing legal education seminar certificate sitting on my desk. No, I said honestly, I'm not. Court arrived on a rainy Tuesday morning. Nolan wore a tailored suit. Sabrina came with him. She wore white. To court. Bold choice. Marcus approached me near security. Miss Ash, last chance to hire counsel. Nolan smiled beside him. She probably can't afford one. People nearby looked over. Humiliation always performs better with witnesses. I simply adjusted my folder. Inside were labeled tabs, financial records, bank statements, social posts, transfer histories, evidence. Judge Alvarez called the hearing. Marcus stood confidently. Your Honor, petitioner seeks temporary support, exclusive residence access, and payment of legal expenses. Then the judge looked at me. Miss Ash, you're appearing without representation? Yes, Your Honor. Nolan smirked. Sabrina whispered something. Marcus looked relaxed. For about 6 more seconds. Because then I stood. Yes, Your Honor, I said calmly. I object to all requested relief and would like permission to submit Exhibits A through K. Marcus blinked. The judge blinked. Nolan stopped smiling. And for the first time since finding out about Sabrina, I watched certainty leave his face. People imagine revenge feels dramatic. It doesn't. Most of the time, it feels like spreadsheets. Judge Alvarez looked over her glasses. Proceed, Miss Ash. I walked to the clerk with my exhibit folders. Marcus finally recovered enough to speak. Your Honor, perhaps opposing party would benefit from procedural guidance. I looked directly at him. I'm familiar with procedure. The courtroom went quiet. Not movie quiet. Real quiet. Paper shuffling stopped. Typing stopped. Even Nolan shifted in his seat. I handed over Exhibit A. Unauthorized transfers from my business account totaling $54,000 over 18 months. Judge Alvarez flipped pages. Her eyebrows lifted. Exhibit B through D show average personal spending exceeding $12,000 monthly. These expenditures did not contribute to household expenses. Marcus interrupted. Objection to characterization. Bank statements characterize themselves, I replied. The judge hid something that almost looked like a smile. Nolan, Judge Alvarez asked, did you use respondent's business account? He answered too quickly. She gave me access. Access, not permission, important distinction. Then came Exhibit E social media screenshots, one post from 6 days earlier, Nolan smiling beside Sabrina. Caption, finally choosing happiness. Comment underneath from one of his friends, get that bag. And Nolan's reply, working on it. His face lost color. Marcus shuffled papers. Fast. Too fast. I kept going. Regarding temporary support, I'd also like the court to consider economic misconduct related to unauthorized expenditures. Judge Alvarez leaned forward. You seem unusually prepared. I dislike surprises. Across the room, Sabrina stopped smiling. By the end of the hearing, no temporary support, no legal fee order, no exclusive use of the home, and an order requiring review of disputed transfers. Outside court, Nolan exploded. What the hell was that? You asked for court. Marcus stepped between us. Who's helping you? No one. That's impossible. I smiled politely. Have a good afternoon. That was hearing one. Then discovery started. And discovery is where people who lie for years usually fall apart. Marcus went aggressive immediately. Hundreds of document requests. Depositions scheduled at inconvenient times. Motion after motion. I responded to everything within 24 hours. Organized, indexed, cited. The first strange thing happened 3 weeks later. Marcus filed a complaint, suggesting I was receiving undisclosed legal assistance. That lasted 4 days, then disappeared. Apparently, competence isn't illegal. Nolan became angrier every week. You could see it during mediation sessions. See it in texts. See it in the way he stopped calling me boring and started calling me manipulative. Funny difference. During discovery, I requested communication records. He objected. Judge ordered production. 2 weeks later, 3 years of messages landed in my inbox. 3 years. Not 6 months. Not 1 year. 3. I sat at my kitchen table reading messages until midnight. Some hurt. Some were pathetic. Most were expensive. One text from Nolan to Sabrina read, "Just wait. Once I leave, half the business is ours. Ours." Another, "Stevie works too much to notice anything." That one stayed with me. Not because it hurt, because it was almost true. Then came the depositions. Marcus insisted on conducting Nolan's himself. I didn't object. Sometimes confidence is useful. Nolan entered the conference room looking relaxed. He shouldn't have. After basic questions, I started slowly. "Mr. Parker, when did your relationship with Miss Hale begin?" "About 6 months ago." I slid a printed text across the table. Timestamp. 3 years earlier. His jaw tightened. "Can you explain this message?" He shifted. Marcus objected. I answered calmly. "Goes to credibility and timeline." The court reporter hid a smile. For the next hour, his story collapsed piece by piece. Trips, payments, hotel reservations, gift receipts. Then his confidence returned. That was his mistake. "You know what?" he snapped. "Fine," Marcus whispered. Nolan ignored him. "Yes, I stayed because leaving earlier would have been financially stupid." Silence. He kept talking. "You were always working anyway." I wrote a note. "Let witnesses keep talking. Besides," he continued, pointing at me, "you fix computers. You act like you're smarter than everyone because you organize spreadsheets." Marcus quietly closed his eyes. I asked softly, "And Sabrina's career?" "She's building a wellness brand." I slid another paper forward. Tax returns. Subpoenaed. $11,000 income last year? His confidence cracked again. "She's building. For 3 years?" Sabrina, sitting behind him, looked away. Then came the sentence that changed everything. Nolan laughed nervously. "You really think you understand this process?" I looked down at my notes, then back up. "No," I said quietly. "I know I do." For the first time since all this started, he looked scared. 2 weeks before trial, Marcus called. Not for posturing. Not for threats. For peace. "Let's resolve this." We met in a conference room with bad coffee and expensive chairs. He slid paperwork across the table. "Nolan keeps the house. Temporary support request withdrawn. 50-50 assets split. You pay $2,000 monthly for 18 months. I stared at the offer, then at him. "No." Marcus exhaled slowly. "You understand trials get ugly." "I know. He's prepared to discuss personal matters." "That's fine." "He says you emotionally abandoned him." I almost laughed. 70-hour work weeks funding someone else's affair, apparently counted as abandonment now. Marcus leaned forward. "You're either incredibly confident or making a terrible mistake." Maybe. What I didn't tell him was that Discovery had already handed me almost everything. Instagram stories, deleted posts, location metadata, receipts, and Melissa. Poor Melissa. Nolan scammed the wrong friend. Apparently, Sabrina convinced her into some fake wellness investment scheme that collapsed. 3 days later, Melissa emailed me. Subject line: "Thought you should have this." Attached: a screen recording. Private story. Wine glasses everywhere. Nolan drunk. Sabrina beside him. Both laughing. Nolan raising his glass. 3 more years, and I take half the business. Sabrina laughing harder. He still thinks you love him. Then Nolan looked directly into the camera. That woman's too busy fixing computers to notice anything. I watched it 4 times, not because it hurt, because evidence should be reviewed carefully. I added Melissa to witness lists. Marcus called within 40 minutes. Who's Melissa? A witness. To what? You'll see. Trial morning arrived, cold and gray. Courtroom packed. Apparently word spread. Self-represented tech owner versus celebrity divorce attorney. People love disasters. Nolan arrived wearing a suit I recognized. I bought it. Sabrina sat behind him in designer sunglasses indoors. Marcus looked tired. Judge Alvarez entered. Ready to proceed? Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor. Opening statements started. Marcus painted Nolan beautifully. Neglected boyfriend, lonely partner, woman obsessed with work, Sabrina merely supportive. Then my turn. Your Honor, this case is not about neglect. I looked directly at Nolan. It's about planning. I presented evidence methodically. Transfers, texts, bank records, vacation receipts, social media. Every objection Marcus made slowed things. None stopped things. Then Melissa testified. She described parties, conversations, plans. Then the video played. The courtroom stayed silent. On screen, Nolan laughed drunkenly. Once I take half her company, we're buying property. Sabrina clinked glasses. Someone in the gallery whispered, Wow. Nolan stopped making eye contact after that. But the moment everyone remembers came later. Cross-examination. I stood. He looked exhausted. Mr. Parker, I asked softly, you've repeatedly described me as unintelligent. He shrugged. You fix computers, and you believe legal knowledge matters during divorce? Obviously. That's why I hired Marcus, I nodded. Understood. Then I picked up one final folder. Your Honor, I'd like permission to introduce impeachment evidence. Marcus stood immediately. Objection. Not disclosed. Responsive evidence, Judge Alvarez considered. Allowed. I handed documents forward. Judge Alvarez read, paused, read again, then looked up. Miss Ash? I faced Nolan. Would you read the highlighted section? He frowned, took the paper, started reading, then stopped. His face changed color. Active license to practice law. Issued to Stevie Ash. Silence. Real silence. His hands shook slightly. You're a lawyer? I answered calmly. I have been for 12 years. Marcus stood. Your Honor, I cut in gently. I've never practiced professionally. I've never represented clients. I own an IT company. Judge Alvarez looked amused. You maintained an active license? Yes, Your Honor. For 12 years? Yes. Nolan stared. You lied. I looked at him for a long moment. No. His voice cracked. You hid this. You told me lawyers were unbearable. He said nothing. Because what do you say when your own arrogance builds the trap? Court recessed briefly. Outside, Marcus approached me. 12 years? Yes. He rubbed his forehead. You let me think. I let you assume. When proceedings resumed, Judge Alvarez moved quickly. Economic misconduct established. Unauthorized transfers confirmed. Asset dissipation proven. No support. Repayment orders issued. Reduced asset allocation. Sale of shared property. Then final remarks. Nolan stood frozen. This isn't fair. Judge Alvarez looked directly at him. The unfair part was using someone's trust as a financial strategy. Sabrina disappeared before court ended. Marcus packed quietly. As everyone left, he stopped beside me. You ever want to practice law? I smiled. I'm good with computers. 3 weeks later, Sabrina left. Turns out romance funded by other people's money has limits. Nolan moved back with family. His final social media post blamed manipulative partners. Then deleted comments. Me? Still running my IT company. Still renewing my law license. Still keeping one framed screenshot in my office. his old text. You fix computers. You don't understand court. Sometimes the funniest things age well.